Oh, hey, man. Oh, yeah, thanks for joining, man. Feel free to. You can hear me, right? Yeah, just feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, I know we just spoke, but yeah, feel free to ask any follow up questions in the chat. Doing a master's. So you've been advised that doing a master's degree would help in hiring. What do you mean by that? As in help you get hired? So doing a master's will get you hired. That's what you've been hearing, right? Just gonna answer that. I'm just gonna answer this question based on how I understand it. So you're saying that doing a master's will help you get hired? I think it really depends on the field. So for software engineering, I would say it doesn't matter as much, but again, it depends on the job. For a lot of jobs out there, a master's is not required, as in tech jobs. What does matter is you understanding. No, not necessarily, because a lot of people have master's degrees already, especially those who did their undergrad abroad and then came to the US for masters. In fact, most of the international students I've spoken to are here on a master's and are just wrapping up their masters and are looking for a job. So I don't think it necessarily gives you an advantage. In fact, credentials in general don't really give you an advantage beyond the first round interview. Credentials might help you land a first round interview, but after that, it doesn't really matter. It's really about how you present yourself as the person who can help the company get to where it needs to go. So, hiring in general, so you have to think about what a job is. A job is when someone gives you a certain amount of money and you do something that helps them make money or helps them save money. That's the only reason why they're going to give you money in the first place. If you can't do either, or you can't show enough of a case that you can do one of the above or both, then it's going to be pretty hard to convince someone to give up money they already have to hire you. So, a credential in itself may indicate that you do have the skills and experiences to help a company make money or save money, but you have to make that case beyond I have a master's degree. You have to say, oh, I helped this company save, I don't know, like 20% in costs by doing this, this, and this task, which is related to my master's. That's direct proof that you can do one of those two things I just mentioned, which is save money or help a company make money. to that extent, assuming that you relate your master's to one of these two activities, then yes, it will make you more noticeable. But just having a credential alone, having any credential alone, won't exactly make you noticeable. You might get the attention of someone, but it doesn't mean just because you get the attention of a hiring manager through a resume, it doesn't mean they're going to pick your resume out of the pile. They might be like, oh, that's an interesting resume. I'm going to shortlist it, but doesn't mean I'm going to actually give you a first round interview. Because again, you're just a piece of paper. You're literally just a piece of paper when you just put your resume into a pile, which is what you're doing when you're applying for a job. You're no different to the other person who applied like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. That's why hiring manager outreach is so important, because you're actually a person to one of the people who might be responsible for hiring people. And when you are a person who makes a case for themselves, then you are, if that director feels like you'd be a great addition to the company, they're going to do whatever it takes to get you into the company. That's the point of hiring manager outreach. It's not, oh, I'm just going to ask for a referral or I'm going to make you like me. And that has nothing to do. That's part of what ends up happening if that person decides to vouch for you. But trying to game your way to those outcomes is just going to backfire. But yeah, just to answer your question, no, a master's degree does not automatically make you more noticeable, because so many of these people who are looking for jobs right now all have masters, especially international students. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Okay. So the question is, we spoke about working on projects, etc., to stand out from what you've seen. Is there anything else or any other trend you've seen in people who have gotten offers, what they do differently? So there are actually many examples. One is, I used to see some resumes come in when I was at an early stage fintech startup. We were hiring because we raised the seed round. And what stood out, as in I wasn't directly involved in hiring, but I think what stood out back then is not going to be the same as what will stand out now. It's very anecdotal, but for that fintech startup, it was brand names. The person went to a brand name school. That's how they got the job. That was my direct involvement with someone who I ended up working with. So that's how he got the first round interview, and then that's how I got the job. But let me talk about a blockchain example. So when I was had a blockchain startup, one that was responsible for co-founding Ethereum, we had one job that got thousands of applications because everyone wanted to work in blockchain. This was like the first time there was a blockchain craze. The person who ended up getting the offer was not the person with the best credentials. Best as in like what we typically associate with like the top ranked schools. He went to a good school, but he didn't go to a top ranked school. What actually helped him stand out was the way he presented himself as a problem solver for the company. And he talked directly about how he, in similar situations to the company I was in, he talked about situations where he applied skills and experiences to solve similar problems that our company was facing. So in that sense, he showed that he could directly help the company because he had experience doing what the company needed to get done. That is how he stood out. He showed that he could actually help because he had helped companies in similar situations before. The reason why just having projects alone won't make you stand out, this is again what I've seen, is that firstly, most developers have projects on their resume. It's actually how you present those projects that matters. So, taking an example from my own job search. So, when I was trying to get into tech, I was on the legal team of a tech company before that. I wanted to apply. I applied to over 200 jobs and I got 0 interviews. And I also had a project to my resume that at least I felt was unique. It was a map to show free legal services in New York, and I had never seen a solution to this problem. Most of the solutions were just lists. Mine was an interactive map that provided information. That didn't get picked up at all in the, I guess, resume screens. 200 times, 200 plus times. The only way that got picked up and actually talked about was because I had reached out to someone 3 months before I had started applying for jobs. And that one experience, that one project stood out to this person I had spoken to. And we talked about it extensively because I messaged him, and that's how I got the first round interview. I messaged him 3 months after we had spoken, multiple times also. That was how I then even got that first round interview. Because I think had I just applied, I would have been 1 out of 1,000, maybe like 200 resumes. But reaching out to him and asking him about what he needed in a potential hire for the startup, that's how I got the first round interview. And that gave me a space to then talk about my project and how I was able to create results that made them see me as someone who could then help the startup create results. That's how projects can make you stand out, but just having projects alone on your resume won't make you stand out. You need to have a place to be able to talk about them, and the resume is not the best place because most of the time your resume is not going to get looked at. That's just the way it is if you just apply for a job. Yeah, if that answers your question. I'm sure some companies do, but nothing really matters again. So these small things don't really matter. What actually matters is just volume. You just have to do volume in the right way. So a lot of people think it's about applying to lots of jobs. But if you do the math, if you're 1 out of 1,000 applications every time you apply, those are pretty bad odds. What you need to be doing is reaching out to 1,000 alumni or 1,000 non-alumni, just hiring managers, and presenting yourself as and asking questions about the company and where it wants to go next, and then how your skills and experiences could help that company get to where it needs to go. If you can do that 1,000 times, I think the chances of you getting a job offer are very high. Because as someone who's helped with hiring, I like when you're able to ask me questions instead of just talking about what you want. Most of the time, and I get why that is the case because you're just taught in college that you have to just check all these boxes and then somehow you're just going to stand out. But that's actually not what happens. Because again, the odds are 1 out of 1,000. You might get 900 great people who have great credentials and great work experience who make great additions to startups, but you're cramming all of them into one job. So like a bunch of them are going to get excluded, but not to go on a tangent or anything. But yeah, these like small things don't really matter. And if they did, would you want to work for a company that cares about such a small detail? I don't know if that's the kind of company you would want to work for, but I guess it's just volume. It doesn't really matter. So this is a question I get a lot. I was just going to answer this question. Yeah, how do you email hiring managers? So, and I get why, again, this is the case. So in college, you're taught to write essays and all, and you think writing a lot is somehow going to help your case. That is not the case with CEOs and directors. They get 50 to 100 emails every single day. So if you write something that's even more than 200 words, you're probably not going to have your email read. What you want to do is to follow a format of course, like say hi, the person's name, talk about something that stood out in their profile. And with Reachy, we actually help you do that because we personalize it with AI and we take an aspect of that person's profile and then we put it at the start of your email to that hiring manager. And then you want to maybe talk about what you've done. And you can like play around with this, but greeting, what stood out in their profile, who you are and what you've done, and use bullet points if you want to really talk about what you've done, as in results you've created. And then end with like a call to action, which is, would love to jump on a call sometime next week to talk more about, and then maybe the thing that stood out or something about their company. Make sure that's lower than that. Make sure you use fewer than 200 words. That will make your email short and concise and be exactly what hiring managers are looking for. Because again, the ability to write short and concise emails is also an important skill, even for developers. And if you have any questions about emails that you're writing, or you want me to take a look, just message me on LinkedIn. All right, I'm going to ask another question. So if a company does not, how is the job market doing right now? Well, it depends on the field. But I would say that tech is doing pretty well still. Maybe not big tech, but a lot of startups are raising a lot of money. So let me just see if I can share my screen. Oops. So let's say, so I came across this company just now. So they raised 265 million recently, and they are I guess they're a startup, but they raised 1 billion in total. So if the market wasn't doing well, the job market in general for tech wasn't doing well, then how would they be able to raise so much money? Now, I've never seen any jobs posted on general job boards for this company, but I do know they do have jobs because I looked at the careers page. But companies are actually more likely to not publicly announce they have jobs nowadays because they're going to get thousands of job applications from just cold applications. I think they're looking to fill these, and any jobs they haven't posted yet on this job board, they're looking to post these. They're looking to fill these positions with people who are known by people on the team first, before actually, if maybe months later they can't find these people anymore, they haven't been able to fill some of these roles, that's when they publicly announce that there are open positions. But I would say in tech, you still have mid-sized to small to mid-sized companies raising every week, actually, millions. We're going to be featuring these companies on Reachy probably in tomorrow's update, which is going to show a bunch of companies that have just raised as early as late as recently as like yesterday. Is there a particular site to look out for startups since, well, there are a mix of newsletters, so you can look at, there's one called Strictly VC, and then there's Axios, then Crunchbase, but you have to pay for it. It's not cheap too. Crunchbase's database, but it's not cheap at all. And we're going to try to feature as many of them as possible on Reachy and show you all the hiring manager contacts, so you can start reaching out to some of these people and then get noticed for a job that hasn't even been posted yet. But they clearly have the funds to support, because if you raise 100 million, you're most likely going to be hiring. But yeah, my own question was, if a company does not have jobs on their careers page, does that mean they're hiring? Yeah, it does. It still does, because just because they don't have jobs on their careers page does not mean they're not hiring. Sometimes they just want to fill jobs internally or fill jobs through the networks of people that are already at the company, which is actually why you're seeing a trend of lots of directors posting on LinkedIn about open positions. The reason they're doing that is because they want to get certain first degree connections to reach out. That seems to be the only way they can target these people in their network. I mean, unless they already have an email list of all the people they've ever met, but most likely not. So that's why they're posting on LinkedIn as posts, not jobs. Which goes to show that I think hiring managers want to look for people who are already known by the people that they already know. So people on their team, people in their networks, which is why you need to be reaching out to these hiring managers. Because if you don't, you're again going to be one out of thousands, and you're going to be deprioritized, most likely. Not saying all cases, but you're most likely going to be deprioritized, because now hiring managers have choice. Yeah, they have choice. Any other questions in the last 3 minutes? All right, I'm going to ask my own question then. Question is, should you ask for a referral? I tend to say no. Don't ask for a referral, because, well, it depends on how well you know the person. But the better question to honestly ask is, do you know if your company is hiring, or if anyone at your company is hiring and could use someone like me to help solve problems that I know how to solve? Or do you know a company that has hiring needs that you think someone like me with the right skills and experiences can help meet? That's what you should be speaking in this language. If you don't speak in this language, then you're really just asking for something and not knowing what you can provide in return. Flip it around and ask what they need, and then see if you can provide what they need. Because if you can, then you're going to get a job, because it simply makes sense for the company to give you a job and you help them with what they need help with. That's why companies hire, by the way. They need help in some way. That's why they're hiring. All right, any other last minute questions? All right, thanks for joining, everyone. I'll be doing more of these. Definitely doing more of these. But yeah, thanks. All right, ending the stream now.